I'll always remember where I was the night I watched Ben Van Sumeren pile up 17 tackles against the mighty Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and I think that counts a little low. I had him for 46 tackles, 31 solo, and 15 assists.
Ah, nice.
It's a subjective stat.
It is a little bit. This podcast, and whether or not you like it, is also subjective. It's the Eagle Eye Podcast. He's Reuben Frank.
Mr. Transition over there.
I'm
Mr.
Dave
Segue.
Zangaro. And if you do like the podcast, if you're one of those people, you know what to do. Rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe there as well. Reuben, it's an exciting time. Final preseason game out of the way.
Yes.
The next game counts.
The next 17 or more count. It's been a good preseason, and I know there's a lot of people they can't stand preseason games. I like them. I like
2-1.
Yeah, I like seeing the young guys. I like seeing who's going to show up in the games that maybe hasn't shown up in practice, and there's a couple of those guys that we'll talk about. I enjoy these games, but enough. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, 3 is enough, especially when the starters aren't playing and. But you're right. There are certain players these games really, really help. And guys that, for whatever reason, don't shine in practice the way they do in games. I think we've seen a few of those players. Yeah,
like I was just saying, I think certainly Justin Evans is one of those, and he might have played himself into a starting spot. We'll get to that a little later. There's a few guys. I think Eli Ricks is another one who would fall into that category. Really didn't show up much in practice, especially the first couple of weeks, but in the games, he's making plays all over the place. So there's a few of those guys. And I think, I don't know if coaches will admit it or GMs, but I think they like that. They like seeing a guy who shows up on game day. That's what really counts anyway.
I mean, they'd like you to show up in practice.
Sure. But I don't think they'll admit it that maybe what you do in the game means more than what you do in 20 practices and OTAs and meetings and all that. But something to be said for a guy who shows up in a game and makes plays.
I guess
it's all part of the equation.
Yeah, and it's an imperfect science about how things are weighted.
Sure.
And I think it varies from team to team too. Like the Eagles put a ton of emphasis on the joint practices, whereas some other teams don't. Right. And it's really just a matter of how they do it. So to set the schedule and the scene a little bit for the next few days, the Eagles will be off on Friday, off on Saturday, practice on Sunday, practice on Monday. Tuesday is the day. Tuesday is the cut day. They have to be down to 53 players by 4 p.m. So a lot of heavy lifting to do. It's not like the old days where you'd have cut down to 80 and then say whatever. Like it's all in one fell swoop now. So a lot of players are going to get cut.
Yeah, cut, put on IR. There might be trades. That Howie's going to be really active. There's going to be new players coming in. To think that the final 53 is the 53, I think we've seen Howie at work enough to know that's not the case. He'll be scouring the proverbial waiver wire, looking for somebody who can help this team. And there's going to be guys who make the initial 53 and get cut the next day. They think they have it made, and that's got to be tough. But how he's going to keep making moves until he's happy with the roster. And he's talked about how the offseason never ends. You're always looking to upgrade. It's a wild few days. And I would think they'll probably start cutting. They usually do. Well, they usually don't practice the day before final cuts. But I would think a few guys would get released, because you don't want a guy to get hurt in practice and have to pay him if he has no chance of making the team. But you also need enough bodies to get. But these are going to be pretty quick, light practices from what it sounds like. So maybe they'll keep everyone till 4:00 Tuesday. But whatever happens, it's going to be really, really, really interesting. It always is.
It always is. And I thought you brought up a good point that the initial 53, some people will call it the final 53, and it is not. We saw the Eagles claim players last year. They made a trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like, this is a very fluid thing. And some guys who don't make the initial roster end up playing big roles on the team, especially with the way the practice squad rules have changed in recent seasons. I mean, the practice squad used to really just be a developmental group of players. I mean, it's basically an extension of the roster these days with the elevations. So all those things kind of come into play when you're talking about roster construction.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles do it really, really well, making the best use of the practice squad. If a guy's playing well in his call-ups, they'll find room for him on a roster. But for most of them, it's, you get your few games in and that's going to be it. But it's definitely an expanded roster. I mean, we talked about the 53. It's really the 69-man roster. And then you just see the guys are going to be going back and forth. You have to clear waivers every time you go from the roster to the practice squad, but most guys do. Should we go over the waiver procedure? Just real quickly, during this time of year, if a player has 4 years of pension credit for he's vested veteran, he's not subject to the waiver claim. So if it's a veteran, so Fred Johnson's a good example. He's a 4-year vet, so he's in his 5th year, so he can't get claimed. So when they cut him to redo his contract from a futures contract to a 2-year deal, other teams couldn't claim him. So the Eagles knew they couldn't lose him because they'd already agreed to a contract with him. So if it's a 2-year guy, then he could be claimed by any team, and it goes in reverse order of last year's standing. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of references to waiver claim priority and vested veterans and all that. And that's all it is.
Yeah. And good point. Eagles have their 31st in waiver order. So pretty low there if there's a high profile player that they want to claim.
But if the Eagles and Chiefs are the only teams that claim a guy, the Eagles get him.
Yeah. It was strategic by the Eagles to lose that Super Bowl. All right, please don't yell at me for that.
You're
one.
Going to get cards and letters.
I know. Eagles end up losing today, 27-13. I should mention the final score. Let's go through some stuff from this game, and I want to start with the players who didn't play, because that's often as telling as who played well or who played
often?
poorly.
You going to say often? You got a hard T in there? Often?
There's a T in that word.
It's silent, though. Isn't it silent T?
No, it's not.
Often. Say often.
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 It's not silent.
Sure it is.
No, it's not.
Often. Yeah. Anyway, why don't you run down the players that
often? No, it's not.
Oh, it is. Anyway, go with the players who didn't play.
Often is the word.
No, it's often. Can we just get on with the podcast?
I disagree. What if I put a poll out on that one?
Well, I just looked it up in dictionary.com and it's often. There's no the T silent.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's right here. Yes, I did.
Often. I've been saying that word wrong my whole life.
Yeah, apparently.
I didn't know that. That's really bizarre. Okay.
No, it's not bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah. That makes me wonder how many words I've been saying incorrectly. All right. I'm a little shaken right now.
Definitely shaken.
Yeah, I'm very particular about my pronunciations. So.
Well, you don't make those kind of mistakes very often.
All right. So the players didn't play. So obviously, the main starters, the guys we know, like I'm not going to tell you AJ Brown didn't play. He didn't
play.
Like guys like that. So no Nakobe Dean. We saw him play 17 snaps in the second preseason game. The notable thing, no Zach Cunningham.
Yeah.
He's a starter.
He's a starter. And we kind of were comfortable enough in that we wrote a story a couple of days ago kind of saying, look, it's not over, but it's over.
It's over.
He got, I think it was Tuesday joint practice. He got every first team rep. You're talking about 2.5 weeks before the opener. That doesn't happen unless they've got their minds made up. Unless something crazy happens, he's the guy.
Yeah. So him and Nakobe did not play. The other linebackers did. So we saw Christian Ellis out there. We saw Nicholas Morrow out there. We saw the tackle machine, Ben Van Sumeren, and then Tyreek Maddox-Williams, who we'll talk about in a little bit. So
the entire second half of the pod will be Tyreek Maddox-Williams.
Be heavy on him. Some backup offensive linemen who did not play. Sua Opeta, Jack Driscoll.
Yeah, they're going to make the team.
So that's kind of reading between the lines when we're talking about this stuff. Generally, that's the case. There's no guarantee,
right.
But typically you look to see who didn't play because they're probably going to make the team.
I think in Driscoll's case, because to me, he didn't have a great camp. And I think if they felt like he really needed to show something, he would have played. So he's a guy, like some of these guys.
Well, Sua too. I mean, I was surprised Sua didn't play.
Yeah.
I thought Sua was on the bubble, but I think he's in. And then we didn't see Josh Sills play until the second half. This is a guy who they brought in and they put him on second team right away. And he really struggled at times, struggled last week in the preseason game. I don't think he's making the team.
I don't either.
Okay. Obviously, Dallas Goedert didn't play, but so too did Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra.
Yeah. And
any surprise about Calcaterra not playing?
A little bit. Tyree Jackson did play.
Played a lot.
Played well, yeah.
I guess there's not a lot of other bodies.
He had to.
Yeah. Derek Barnett did not play.
Yeah.
Looks like he has a roster spot.
And I know people were talking about he was on the bubble. I kind of thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, they redid his contract to make it more palatable. I thought he didn't have a great camp.
Yeah, he was okay.
It was okay. Yeah.
I thought he started out better than he finished.
Maybe. I thought his best reps in training camp came as an interior player, which I've never really seen him do much of.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're going to use him like that a little bit, but it looks like he's got the team made.
Marlon Tuipulotu did not play. I think he's your backup nose tackle.
Looks that way.
Here's the one that's most confusing to me. Contavious Street.
Yeah. Well, we have a theory about him.
Do you?
Well, the Moro Jomo theory that they don't know if he's going to be ready. That's a pretty serious injury. I know it's concussion. You think, well, he could be back in a few days.
But if the Eagles put a Jomo on IR before final cuts, then he's out for the year.
Yeah, but I'm going to say they're going to carry him and Contavious Street.
That'd be seven defensive tackles.
Yeah, and then you can IR Jomo as soon as he's on the 53. At 401, you can IR him. That's a theory. That's just a working theory because I can't think of any other reason unless he was hurt and we didn't know about it.
That's another one. So Mario Goodrich did not play in this game. He has a groin injury, which is another guy who kind of factors into the 53-man math.
Absolutely. But, I mean, I think if Jomo had the team made, they don't want to shut him down certainly for the year. But if they feel like he's going to miss a few games, which is certainly possible, I mean, then carry 7 and then – and then put him on IR and then build your roster from there. So I can't think of any other reason unless he was hurt that he wouldn't play. Yeah. Unless they just forgot to play him. It's unlikely.
Yeah, I think that's unlikely. And then, the running backs, all 4 that we think are going to make the team did not play. The only 2 in uniform were Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of saw early on Sermon was going to be the odd man out. And, you kind of feel for the kid a little bit because he spent all last year patiently waiting his turn with the understanding or at least the assumption that Miles would be gone and it would be Gainwell and Boston and him. Then they go out and sign Penny and Swift, and now he's on the 5th team, and there is no 5th team. But that's life in the big city. And I think he'd probably clear waivers. 3rd round pick a couple years ago.
Eagles claimed him last year, but it's another year removed from being a high draft pick.
Yeah. He had a nice touchdown run last week, but I don't think he was overwhelming.
That was after he fumbled.
He had a fumble.
And he lost a rep in pass pro, which those two, in my mind, pretty heavily outweigh the touchdown.
It's fair.
Especially from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at. So the 4 guys that we kind of figured are going to be the 4 guys on the team.
Looks that way.
And I think the big question mark in that running back room coming into camp was, would Penny be healthy? Because I think I wrote my first observations of the summer. If he's healthy, he's making the team. And he's healthy. He's making the team.
I saw everything I wanted to see from him this summer.
I thought he had a good camp.
Yeah, I did too. Quiet, kind of under the radar, but good camp.
Yeah.
All right. We should mention in this game without Reed Blankenship, Edmonds and Evans were the starting safeties.
Yeah.
Then we saw Sidney Brown come in with Kayvon Wallace, and then we saw Kayvon Wallace play deep into the second half.
Yeah, and which doesn't augur well for him.
Maybe not. Safety is the most confusing position on this team right now.
It is. And I mean, to me, the guy who is the, last in that hierarchy when camp started might be the starter, Justin Evans. I think the way he played in that Browns game, I'm sorry. Well, he played well in both games, but the second preseason game, I thought he really showed up in a way that he hadn't in practice. And he just started getting first team reps.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 3 practices, he's been the first safety in opposite Reed. Now we're 2.5 weeks from opening day. That doesn't happen if they're not thinking he might be the guy.
Yeah, very possible.
I mean, if you had to guess,
I would guess Justin Evans.
I think all Edmonds had to do was just be okay, and the job would have been his with his experience, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. Now they could keep him as kind of the third safety, and play him almost like a linebacker.
Yeah,
but they could do that with Kayvon a little bit too.
Yeah,
it could there could be a roster competition between those two for that last spot.
Sometimes there's guys that we just like more than the coaches do, and like we're not in meetings, we're not in film study. To me, Kayvon had a good, consistent physical camp, but I'm kind of thinking he's on the outside looking in right now.
Okay. All right. Let's go through some game notes here.
Sure.
Anyone who stood out to you? Let's ping pong this back and forth a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned the 2 young linebackers. I think Tyreek Maddox-Williams, for a kid who just got here 5 days ago, he walked in the NovaCare complex for the first time on Saturday, right? Because they signed all those guys the day after everyone got hurt. He was, and I mean the interception was a really nice.
He almost had another one.
Let me see his final stats here. He filled up the box score: 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, an interception, and 42-yard, I think, return. 2 PDs. I mean, he filled up the box score, and for a guy who just got here, that speaks a lot about. He's a local kid from South Jersey, Timber Creek High School, and comes out of nowhere. And I'd keep him on the practice squad.
Yeah, he showed me a little something. He got cut by the Chargers the week before.
Yeah, basically. He was on the street a good week.
Yeah, he was actually back in the area. He said he was in Vineland and Trenton. Like he was in South Jersey working out.
Well, Trenton's in Central Jersey.
Vineland
is the largest municipality in New Jersey in terms of geography, like square footage. Vineland. I'm just saying.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
And then Van Sumeren, I mean, he's not going to make the team, but 17 tackles is 17 tackles. He made plenty of mistakes. Yeah,
it's funny. Like you look at the box score and you think this guy must have been great. No, he wasn't. A lot of these tackles were downfield, like pretty far down the field. But
he had a penalty.
He was tackling guys before they got the football.
He was trying to get to 20. Somebody said he got hurt in the locker room. He tripped over somebody's pads or something.
Oh, really?
And one of the trainers had to help him out. So hopefully he's okay.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, but look, and we knew this was a kid who's just learning linebacker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great athlete who, he's a project. He's a typical Howie undrafted project, like so many of these other guys. But 17 tackles is 17 tackles. You just don't see that.
I'll give you another guy who I thought had a good game. Devin Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, and even aside from the big kick return, which was a nice play.
The play he made as a gunner was
a few plays as a gunner. I mean, if he ever makes a 53, he's going to have a heck of a role as a gunner.
Yeah, and he had that other. I really liked that play where caught a short pass and got hit pretty good and popped right back up. And it was kind of like that's his statement of, I'm not a track guy playing football. I'm a football player.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I had a good chat with him after the game. I finally got to ask him what he would have done if he made the U.S. team in the hurdles, because the 110-meter final was Tuesday, and today's Thursday. He said Howie and Nick didn't want him to go. He said, I think I might have. He said he was looking at, he said, realistically though, could I fly back? And he says, I need to be here. If I have any chance. And he understands the numbers. He's like, I'm just trying to put good tape out there. He says he's committed to doing both. Still committed to doing both. And
it's tough.
He's one of the top 5 hurdlers in the world. He's not one of the top 5 wide receivers in the world, but a game like today, he could get another shot on the practice squad, but he's 28. They have other promising wide receivers who are young.
I honestly, Ngata has fallen off to me to the point
bit
where I would keep Devin Allen over him on the practice squad.
They have 16 spots. They're going to keep a few receivers.
Yeah.
They like having a bunch of legs.
But if it came down to those two, I'd keep Devin Allen.
I would agree. Yeah.
Which is something I didn't think I'd say early in camp.
Yeah. It was impressive performance, especially considering, he missed 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did play a little bit last Thursday. But he said it took him a little while to kind of get into the. He said that kick return he had was his first kick return in 8 years.
Is that right?
And he went 77 yards.
He dropped the ball.
He muffed
folded
it.
Deshaun.
Yeah, he did. I like,
and I get a lot of people asking me about him doing punt return. I don't think he's ever done punt return.
No, he's never done.
And that's a hard skill to just pick up at 28. So,
yeah.
Anyone who I get asked about, do they need to keep Britton Covey? Can they get Devin Allen to return punts? That's a big ask for something he's never done, and he doesn't do in practice.
Right. See, the questions I get about Devin Allen are about his form over the 6th, 7th, and 8th hurdles.
I'm happy I don't get those.
Yeah, I might send my people over to your Twitter feed.
Please don't.
Send the whole track world over. But yeah, it was an impressive performance. He really needed something like that because he's had a really quiet summer.
Yeah, and he gave Marcus Mariota a short field. That's helpful.
Yeah, so Marcus was able to put 7 up on his 27-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah,
he completed 1 pass. Should have been a DPI on the one.
Yeah, the one pass he completed, I thought was rough pass. It wasn't a great pass, but hey.
I think my first observation was I wanted him to play more. I would have liked to see more of Marcus Mariota. I think he needs it. I think the coaches need to see him do some positive things. I don't think it was imperative, but I would like to see him play more.
He got a touchdown.
Yeah,
if it makes him feel good, then I think that's probably what they were going for.
Dominating 27-yard drive that he completed 1 pass.
Speaking of guys who look good again, Tanner McKee. Again, it's one of those games where the numbers, again, don't really show how good he was. I thought he played a heck of a game.
Yeah, he took a couple more sacks. But
they were, so this was the thing in this game. The Colts kept their starters in for more than the first half. So you have the second-team offensive line, sometimes the third-team offensive line trying to block starters, and it was just a tough situation. And you saw that with Ngata trying to separate from starting corners.
Yeah.
That stuff was a lot harder for McKee today.
No, I'm impressed with McKee. I do think it's important for people to remember he's going up against when he went up against ones, and I'm not knocking the kid, but he's just not going to be as magical going up against ones, and he wasn't. But man, he goes out there and competes at a high level, and he didn't get the ball down the field as much. I don't think there was anything there. So he kind of played a different game, played the short game, and he was pretty accurate. After I think he was 9 for 18 against the ones, so he was 10 for 16 against everyone else. But he's a good backup. I like what I see from him. He's way better than I expected as a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, we thought there was a legitimate competition coming into camp.
Booker had a good game. Drove down. What? Booker. That's
Booker.
It's one of those hockey nicknames. Booker.
Okay. I thought you thought his name was Booker.
No, I know his name's Book, but like hockey,
I got you.
The Flyers just signed a guy named Bonk, so he's the Bonker.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good name.
He's the Bonker.
Yeah.
11 for 15 for 80 yards for Ian Book. So he's back in that competition. Or not.
Not quite. Anyone else stand out from the good list? I thought Eli Ricks played well.
Yeah.
Had against starters, back-to-back plays against Pittman and Pierce. Great coverage.
He doesn't back down. And I'll tell you what, that kid, he's like an SEC kid. And he doesn't back down. You see it from whether it's Jalen Mills or Josh Jobe. I mean, these late round or undrafted corners don't back down. They're filled with confidence. And he's a confident kid. You can just see it talking to him or watching him. What do you think they do with him? I know you don't want to give away anything because we have our rosters, but I'm keeping him. I'll tell you right now, I'm keeping him on my 53.
It's tricky.
Yeah,
he's one of the last guys who is either on or off.
I think what makes it trickier is I think he's one of those guys who might get claimed.
He might has a pedigree, and some. I think you mention it all the time. Like everyone's not getting claimed. Like we do this every year, and you're worried about last year was Deion Kane's going to get claimed. Of course he's going to get claimed, and
right.
he slides through waivers no problem. But a guy like Eli Ricks was thought to be maybe a first round pick a few years ago, so he has a name recognition. He put out good tape in the preseason. The Eagles are too deep at corner.
Teams are looking for corners. I mean, that's one position where, I mean, what
if it comes down to him or Mario Goodrich? Positionally, Eagles need Goodrich more as a nickel.
Yeah, we've seen Bradbury play inside a lot, and maybe that's a way to save a roster spot or keep Ricks. And has Goodrich played well enough to?
I think Goodrich has played well.
He's been okay.
I think he's been good. I thought he was very good in the games that he got to play in.
Bradbury's played a ton in the slot. And I wonder if that is
I don't think he's their backup slot.
But he could get you through a game. If Maddox got
I don't think that's the wisest way to play this.
I wonder if they're thinking that, though.
If they are, I think that's misguided.
I wonder if I'm thinking like that at my 53.
Okay.
Goodrich would be a phone call away on the practice squad.
Not even a phone call. You just go tap him on the shoulder.
It's a figurative phone call. Well, it might be an off day. It might be a Tuesday.
Okay.
Call him up. But you know what I mean. But the whole position is really intriguing. And to me, and I think we talked about this in the press box during the game, Ricks is ahead of Ringo, but Ringo isn't getting cut.
Yeah.
Ringo's got a job locked up. So it makes it a little tricky. How many, So corner's going to be really, really interesting.
I agree. You know who had a good
this
game?
Team doesn't let young corners go that they like. Yeah, who's that?
Olive Songapolu.
Polu.
Played well.
Did he?
You didn't notice him?
I did. Well, you were talking about him the whole night.
I mean, Quentin Nelson is going to be seeing number 66 in his nightmares tonight.
Yeah, he was pretty active.
He thought he played really well.
Yeah, a couple hurries.
He's not going to make this team, but man, he played well. He got doubled a few times, drew a hold against one of the best guards in the NFL.
Yeah.
I like a kid like that.
Yeah.
Makes the most of his.
He got here late too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was like his body,
Yeah.
The only other, I thought Patrick Johnson had some good rushes early.
Yeah, he did.
When the starters were still in there. Now, the fact that he was playing so late in the game and the fact that he played some off-ball linebacker snaps, I don't know what to make of that, but I thought he had some good rushes early.
Yeah, he did. He did. I just don't know where you're going to put him.
Tyree Jackson made some plays.
He did, and he's not going to make the team over Grant Calcaterra. But
could they keep 4?
I don't know where you find that spot. I don't know.
I don't think so, but
I don't see it. 4 tight ends. Nobody's going to keep 4 tight ends. I think he's been better than Calcaterra. I think it's close.
I don't know if he's been better.
I think he's been a little bit better.
I thought Calcaterra had his moments. Early in camp, I thought Calcaterra was much better. Then Tyree Jackson had a run. Calcaterra had a strong last joint practice.
Right. To me, Tyree Jackson's a guy who's in his third year, his first healthy training camp, and it's only his third year playing tight end. And I think that just takes a while sometimes or all the time to learn a new position. Like he was a quarterback in college. Calcaterra he's okay. I don't know. Calcaterra, they'll keep him because he's a draft pick.
Yeah.
And look,
I don't disagree with you. Like, I think Tyree Jackson has more upside than Grant Calcaterra.
I think so. But I don't think they think that way. And you can keep Tyree Jackson on the practice squad. We got like 30 guys on the practice squad.
I mean, it's 16 spots is a lot.
Yeah, but they don't have Matt Leo anymore. Can't.
Well, he was in his own little category.
Yeah.
And I still do have Matt Leo, just not on the practice squad.
That's true. He's a coach now. I'll bet if Howie called the commissioner and said, "Hey, I want to keep 19 guys on the practice squad." Oh, okay. Just don't tell anybody. But yeah,
I don't think that would happen at all. Anyone else who you thought helped themselves or had a good game?
No, I think we kind of covered it.
Not that he helped himself because he's already obviously pretty solidified. Jake Elliott's just really good.
Oh my God.
He's so automatic.
You know what's interesting? He's only made, well, not only, he's made 4 55-yard field goals in his career. He's played 6 years. He's got 2 in the last 2 weeks in preseason games. I mean, if anything, he might be even better than he was.
Now, the Eagles have had really aggressive coaches during his time, which probably takes away some of his long field goal attempts.
But I also think they have so much trust in him that because, like, if you miss a 55-yarder, the other team's getting 2 first downs and you're 1 first down, you're in field goal range. So you have to have a lot of trust in your kicker to try those long ones. But I think Nick does have that. Yeah,
but he also has trust on a 4th and 2 that he can get 2 yards.
But if it's 4th and 10, he's going to kick it instead of punting it.
Yeah.
Well, I'd always want Elliott and not Siposs, but
yeah, we'll get to Siposs in a moment. Anything else good? If not, we'll take a break and then we'll get to bad after.
No, let's get to the bad.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Boss a little bit.
Yeah.
Held the ball really well for Jake Elliott, which is a part of his job. The punting, he had a long of 49. Which when he hit this is how you know he hasn't been great. When he hit the 49-yarder, I was like, oh my God, look at that punt. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, it was 49 yards.
Average punt.
Yeah. Above average, but still 49 is not like, that shouldn't shock me. And it shocked me.
Yeah.
He also had punts of 44 and 42. The 42-yarder took a nice roll to get to 42.
Yeah, the bounce helped him out a little.
It was like a 30-yard punt without it.
My fear is that they're going to keep him. They're like, he's the best option. And he might be the best option because there's no guarantee someone better is going to come across the waiver wire. And if he does, there's no guarantee the Eagles will get him. But I just don't trust him. I do not trust that guy. Maybe it's not fair. He's not consistent. And the Super Bowl, like you compare like his Super Bowl with like Jake Elliott as a rookie in the 4th quarter of that game in Minneapolis, hits a 42 and a 46 as a rookie. The only rookie to this day to hit 2 40-yard field goals in a Super Bowl, and he hit them both in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And then, Siposs, and it wasn't all his fault. They lost contain on Tony, but I mean, it was a terrible punt. 10 minutes left in the Super Bowl. This is your chance to, solidify. I mean, if he punts it deep, if he hits a 50-yarder there, I mean, maybe they come down and score. They were scoring every other drive, but certainly would have been a lot tougher than from the 5-yard line. Yeah. You know what pissed off Gannon is he was hoping that he would score, so that wouldn't count against the defense. they already get blamed for the fumble return touchdown. But anyway, what's your gut feeling? I think he might be the guy.
Oh yeah, you're changing on this now.
I mean, I've been saying all along it's going to be someone else, but I just don't know if there's anyone else there.
Okay,
but I'll stick to my guns. I'll say it'll be someone else.
Okay, I think it is going to be him, which I don't know if it's the right decision, but I'll stick to my guns there too.
Yeah.
Joseph Ngata put the ball on the ground.
He did.
Rough. It was he made the nice catch, turned and just got the ball popped out. But if there's one thing a coach doesn't want to see from a young player in a preseason game, it's coughing up the football. And that was a promising drive.
It was. They had a few. I think Kenny Brooks had a fumble in a game.
Mhm.
Sermon had a fumble. That's it. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to see.
I had Janarius Robinson in my notes. He's flashed at times this summer, but in this game he had a penalty. He got faked out on an option play in this game. He missed a couple of sacks late in the game.
Yeah.
I just don't see it with him. He looks the part. I don't think he has. It's obviously a crowded position. I don't think he's going to make this team.
I don't either. And there are times where like he would catch your eye in practice.
Mm-hmm. Especially his long arms will get him bat a pass.
Yeah.
And he would flash at times getting to the quarterback.
Yeah. And he had some good reps in one-on-ones.
Yeah, just not consistent.
Yeah.
Josh Sills, we mentioned him earlier, didn't play until the second half. Sua Pettit didn't play at all.
Yeah.
Which is good for Sua, bad for Josh Sills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. At the end of this game, they had Josh Sills and Brett Toth out there, two guys who I was convinced at times this summer were going to make this team, and now I'd be shocked if they do.
What do you think of the backup O-line is not as good as it was last year.
I agree.
I mean, they had a legit left tackle. I think, look, Cam Jurgens had to start, obviously, but he was a backup interior guy because of Sayamalo. So now you lost. And even
you lost your two best backups.
You lost your two best backups. And I think Driscoll hasn't been as good as he was last year, who's your kind of jack of all trades backup.
Your Jack Driscoll of all trades?
God. It was not intentional, but I appreciate that. But the O-line depth is a concern.
Yeah, Fred Johnson's made this team.
Fred Johnson's made the team.
I'm really happy we didn't have a podcast in the
I told him that
the 16 hours that he was released.
Yeah. I was talking to him after the game tonight, and I said, we've been talking you up for on the podcast for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then you go and get cut. And we're like, man, we look like idiots. And he was like, people from home were calling me and what's going on? He said, I couldn't tell anybody, which I don't really understand, but because I mean, he didn't have to clear waivers, so he was just going to resign here, but it was a big secret, and they signed him to a 2-year deal. He's been really good. He's a guy that really wasn't on my radar at all when this thing started. Yeah,
that one has started, but pretty quick, I thought he was separating himself, especially from the other Johnsons. I'm big on the power rankings of the Johnsons. Yeah. He moves past Roderick pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He moved past Kyron. Where would you have him? Would you still have him behind Patrick, or has he moved ahead of Patrick Johnson now?
Patrick Johnson has been bad, but he's at a position that's more tougher to.
His roster spot is not solidified yet, whereas Fred's is.
Right, but he's also in a position that's deeper.
Yeah.
And where they're going to keep fewer guys. I would put him ahead of Patrick.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would.
Big news for the Johnson power rankings.
Yeah, but neither one of them is close to Damaris Johnson. But no, he was kind of a little emotional talking about it. He said nobody's ever wanted me before. Now I've been bouncing around. I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to be a journeyman. And he said nobody ever really took the time to work with me. He said Stout was the first guy that kind of looks. Here's what you got to do. You got to do this, this, and this. He said the time. I think he signed in the practice squad in November.
Yeah. And the only thing we knew about him, and it was him and Roderick Johnson at the same time, they walked in and they're like, these two guys are trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched Fred today duck to get into the locker room.
Yeah. He's huge. But he said, my career has been all right, you're going on the practice squad, you're getting cut in the middle of the season, going to look for another team. It's been like that for my whole career. And, just to, I don't know why, we don't know what the money is yet, but he said the second year, he said really meant a lot to him, and they put some money behind it. So gave him a little bonus, and he's here. Good for him. Good story.
Yeah, it is a good story. He's made the team. He looks the part. He's athletic too. Yeah. There was a play in the joint practice against the Colts You could tell that his teammates are really proud of him. He
Yeah.
got out front. I think it was on a screenplay or a run. It was a play that he was downfield. And he made a big block downfield, and his teammates were like jacked up. They were excited.
And you can tell, like, guys bring him up without being asked. The other linemen, the defensive linemen mention him. You could tell that he's really respected on that team on both lines.
Yeah. Anyone stand out for the wrong reasons aside from the guys I mentioned?
The one guy that comes to mind is Kayvon, just because when he was playing
Late in that game,
playing really late in that game, not a good sign for him.
But if you want to play devil's advocate, someone's got to play, because the only other, they have 6 safeties on the roster.
Right.
5 are the guys we always talk about. The other's Tristan McCollum. So someone has to play.
Yeah. And it could be, Edmonds is, the most experienced. Maybe they didn't want to, I don't know. I think Kayvon's been better than Edmonds.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
At least he's made more splash plays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
And more mistakes. But
maybe
Edmonds you just don't really notice him. You rarely notice him. So
I want to give a shout out. I don't know the fellow's name. Gentleman from the Chain Gang found me today.
I love this.
I have, for a long time, I've been shouting at the NFL for using Chain Gang in probably started this in 2021, yelling at them. Now in 2023, for that being the technology used in this billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
And one of the Chain Gang guys come up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, watch all the comments about the old guys with the chains. I'm one of the old guys."
But it's true, because with GPS technology,
there should be a way. But if they do find a way, give that guy a job.
Yeah, he can run
He works hard.
the
Maybe the chains can
panel.
still be out there as a backup.
Maybe.
Okay.
What's interesting is that you really don't need 10 yards to get a first down, because if the ball's on the 20-yard line, well, the middle of the ball is on the 20, but only the front tip of the ball has to get to the 30.
He's 9 and
Yeah, it's maybe 9 yards and 10 inches.
yeah. It's true.
So, you don't really need 10 yards.
We got anything else? This podcast?
I don't think we do.
I'm now reading about the T in Often and the history of it.
Maybe you wait till we're done with the podcast so our loyal listeners and viewers don't have to listen to this.
I think they want to know. Do you think am I the only person you know who says the T?
No, I actually had I had a professor who said that often. I think it's probably a regional thing. Some areas of the South and Marlton say often. I think that's what it is. But no.
I am just. This is the
Don't take it too hard, Dave.
I'm taking it pretty hard here. It's the what's the effect that people always the Mendoza effect? Is that what it's called? Where you're is Mendoza effect?
The Mendoza line is 200 for baseball, right?
Gosh, what am I talking about? Why am I? It's 1:00 in the morning. What are we doing? Fair enough. All right. Should we wrap this up?
Please.
Yeah. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well.
I was just going to say, we will have a pod after Final Cuts.
Sure. Yeah. Tuesday, 4 p.m. And then since training camp is over, we won't have daily pods after each practice. That time of the calendar is done, but we'll kind of get back into our normal rhythm of a season because it's about that time.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll talk to you soon.